human horsepower, NOS energy drink.
Especially when you can trade 4 years for 12 months. Technician skills are in demand. Work on faster. In session. Learn more at uti.edu.
fans, and welcome to O'Reilly Auto Parts Title Fight presented by Rain-X. It used to be Casual Friday, now it's Casual Thursday. I mean, shoot, we're making this a whole 3-day thing here with Pro 2 competition. And guess what? Pro 2 is here at the House of Drift, Irwindale, California. I'm Jared Deanna. Joining me once again is Ryan Sage. Ryan, some of these drivers, a little bit of anxiety, but I gotta say, a lot of excitement. This is the house that Drift built. I mean, Irwindale, you know, murmurs of it closing and then reopening. I mean, last year was supposed to be the last year, and guess what? Not only Pro, but Pro 2 this year.
Yeah, and for the next 3 years at least. So really excited to be here and kick off the 15th season of, or kick the 15th season of Formula Drift here at this epic and historic track. And we've got a really tight battle for the Pro 2 championship, and the first step in that today is to determine qualifying.
Really cool just coming here and again encountering some of the drivers that have never driven here, talking to Dirk Stratton, talking to even his spotter Nick Swan, but also just cool pieces of memorabilia around. Underneath the bleachers, the Hall of Champions, a banner representing each of the Formula Drift past 14 years. What champion's going to be in the 15th year, we'll find out. That's Saturday night, but also we're going to find out tomorrow night who our Pro 2 champion is. And Ryan, it's really come down to two guys mathematically, and that's Travis Reeder and Dylan Hughes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then, you know, there was a back and forth battle in Texas that kind of set this up. And of course, the Pro 2 season is 4 events compared to the Pro season with 8 events. So every round really matters. And it's still very much a championship chase. But like you said, it's between those two guys.
All right, so right now it's all qualifying. Brandon Schmidt here in this Mass Motorsports Achilles tires. S13 quickly initiating there. Whoa, working his way to the wall. You can see him tapping it, just getting a little out of shape. But man, he is not intimidated by the big giant wall that is Irwindale Speedway. He gets all the way out to the wall, then comes in shallow mid and tightens it up to that final clip. And you can see there that drift box there at the end of the finish line. The judges aren't looking for them to bash the wall there, but to keep it consistent.
Well, and Jared, you know, this particular setup has been something that we've adopted for the past couple of years. It really does help with the overall visual nature of the course. And then you can see Brandon up top getting a little bit out of whack over there, getting aggressive up on the bank as he transitions down into this section right here. And this is the part we're talking about where the visual aspect really does benefit the fans and the judges quite a bit. Before we would switch back around and drivers would be really driving through a lot of smoke in the chase position, we'd lose them and not really would know what happened. And it really affected the visual nature of the judges and also the fans. So I think this course layout does well for both Pro and Pro 2, and it'll be exciting to see how things all ramp up as we get through qualifying. All
right, so Brandon Schmidt, our first driver here in Pro 2 qualifying. That Mass Motorsports Achilles tires S13, got that factory 83 on the roof of his vehicle. And awaiting for the scores. Quite a few drivers not showing up here, but keep in mind we whittled down to 16, so a lot of drivers just buying out of Pro 2 and the Link Engine Management Pro 2 Championship. But quite a few competitors here, and what a great opportunity to drive this iconic track. I know a few of the Pro-Am series are having some fun out here at Irwindale, and there's Brandon Schmidt's score, a 67 on his first run.
Yeah, Jared, and you know, I think for fans keeping track at home, a 67 is probably going to be just maybe a little bit below the threshold. We've seen usually the cutoff in Pro 2 and even in Pro, and we've also noticed this tendency at FD Japan. 75 is kind of like the number that you need, give or take a few points. So drivers should be shooting for that at the bare minimum. So we'll see what Brandon can do on run number 2.
It's like getting a C, you know, it's, you know, just right there. So for judging on a bell curve. Here we go, Raznior in a very cool Mitsubishi Evo, riding the wall. Well done there from Raz. And like to see him maintain that angle there up on the bank. Now coming into that inner bank. Raz very calm. Look at that, the car very settled. You can see him counter steering all the way through, holding that angle and holding that counter steer. Well executed there by the Mitsubishi Eclipse of Raznior.
Yeah, not a vehicle.
I said Eclipse, excuse me, Mitsubishi Lancer Evo.
Yeah, you don't want to get that wrong for the fans.
Exactly.
But yeah, he definitely looked pretty settled here. He got a nice early initiation just right at that last standing moment. You can see him on the throttle here, mid-high line on the bank. There is the end of that outside zone. Now the transition here gets that inside clip. And then this begins the second outside zone, very, very long. You'll see drivers inching closer towards that as we go on through the day. And there's that final inside clip in that last outside zone. So Nice job by Raz overall. And let's see exactly where he locks in his first run of the day.
He had a little Freudian slip there. He said, "Theirs." You went pirate there for a moment. I like that. There's the run from Rasnir. And again, that is an Evo. That is not an Eclipse, as I said mistakenly. And it's rare that we get to say Mitsubishi and Formula Drift in the same sense. A 68 there for Raz. And just betters Brandon Schmidt's score by 1 point. So again, a 68. Next up, George K. It's a lot easier than saying his full last name, but I'll go ahead and make an effort. I always like to, again, George Kirikopoulos. That's usually, again, and he's in the Nissan 370Z. He's from Greece originally, but now residing in Las Vegas. This Link ECU Modified Performance Turbo by Garrett, JDM California stand suspension, 2JZ powered, 370Z. George K. consistent with the throttle. You hear him lift just a little bit, and that to get him set up past that front transition and into the inner bank, dropping down quite a bit, riding the edge of the course. You can see it really threw him off his line with him dropping down on the inner bank on that second outer. It dropped him down and threw him off of that final front clip ride.
Well, you can see just how important establishing that line is, especially after that first inside clip. George K. initiates on a mid-high line here, trying to move up. Stays right down just at the bottom section of that outside zone. Transitions, gets a little bit wide there on that first inside clip. Here he's into that second outside zone, and you mentioned, Jared, this is where he drops down, and then the line forces him a bit wide here. He really misses that last inside clip and is not able to get out to that outside zone, but he'll have 2 passes to go. We'll see how the judges treat him here on run number 1, and he'll go back and prepare for run number 2.
George seemed very confident right from the jump on the bank. And when it came to that second bank, just kind of bit him. 67, right? So we are seeing a trend here. So another 67 here from George K.
Yeah, and one thing that'll be really important as we go through the weekend and we give you guys more details of how each sector, or excuse me, not sector, how the points are allocated on the track for line, angle, and style. We'll also give you a breakdown of where the judges have implemented deceleration areas where chase drivers for head-to-head could potentially see a decel or lack of forward momentum from the lead driver, and that always tends to come into play in very close tandem.
Patrick Held out of the gate in that EOP distributing AEM Fortune Auto Nissan 240SX. Quite low on the bank there. He tries to work his way up high. Really tight to that front clip. And now seeming a lot more comfortable here on the inner bank. Consistent all the way through the bank mid-high line, and then shuts her down. So that looks like it will be an incomplete, and that was a very abrupt end of his drift.
Yeah, unfortunately not able to pull it off there towards the end, shutting it down. Would have got a scored run there. He obviously has some areas of improvement on the big bank, was very, very low. Super late initiation, though, was also noticed there from Patrick. And we'll point that out exactly where those 3, 2, 1 cones are, but the judges have designated an area where you must be initiated by the last standing cone. You can do it earlier than that, but they like to make sure that you do not initiate past that point, or you'll certainly receive a deduction. But unfortunately for Patrick, just not able to pull through there, and he does receive an incomplete. All
right, so that is an incomplete run there for Patrick Held, but he will have another opportunity on his second run. Rob Carlson from Eden, Utah. He's in this Millennium Motorsports Achilles Tires S14. Seen Rob drive through the years out at Pikes Peak and a couple other fun events, and he's definitely a skill. As Carlson whips it through the transition into that outer bank. Now really going for it. Tapping once, twice, and gets really personal with the wall, stays in it. Holy cow. He just did not like the right side of his car as Carlson, oh, look at that back right wheel. That is not the direction it should be pointed. Carlson riding the lightning, and quickly the judge is saying that is an incomplete run. So
Yeah, unfortunately for Carlson, got a bit aggressive there, but certainly you have to give him a round of applause for pushing the limits. Just got a little bit too tight to that wall and then was not able to get out of it. And we know, Jared, with these walls, they can suck you up and take you into that section, especially when a lot of tire gets laid down and becomes slicker in that area. The course is pretty clean now, but as Rob transitions into this second outside zone, you can see he starts to have to make some adjustments. This is where the rear is going to tap. It pushes the front forward, and then he just collects. The wall collects them as he wraps around the corner there. So the vehicle is sustaining some damage. Hopefully it's mostly cosmetic, but as you can see, once that back bumper goes into the wall, you have to be really careful that the front end doesn't snap back around. And right there, he had a bit of understeer just before that happened and was able to avoid going in abruptly, but still making contact with the wall through a good chunk of it through the finish line.
Yeah, you see him get into that K-wall there and just absolutely disrupt his car, and then that back right wheel, you can see it flopping its way around there. So unfortunate for Carlson. Gets in the wall, gets an incomplete. We will see if he is able to fix it and have a go at his second run. And Ryan, these are the standings we're talking about. It's a real, it's between the two guys as far as the championship goes. But overall, how many drivers are going to be receiving pro licenses going into next year?
Yeah, so the top 8 drivers will receive a pro license if they choose to take it. They don't have to.
Right.
A lot of guys choose to develop their programs further and stay in Pro 2 for an extended period of time, and for us, we think that's great. We want them to make the jump up when they're ready to go and move on to 8 rounds, which is double the Pro 2. But as you can see right here, these 10 guys, 8 of those 10 will receive an opportunity to grant themselves a path right to Pro 1 if they choose to go that direction.
But as far as the overall 2018 Link Engine Management Pro 2 Championship, Reeder and Hughes are 1 and 2. But right now, Trenton Beecham from right here in Agora Hills. He's in this Roush Performance Next Entire Ford Mustang. Beecham, really good angle. Like to see him obviously higher on the bank, maybe pedaling back a little bit. But given that we're only taking the top 16 from today into tomorrow's head-to-head competition, needs to step it up, and we've seen some great things from Beecham over the years at the streets of Long Beach and the Long Beach Grand Prix at our Motegi Racing Super Drift Challenge. We've seen him quite a bit, but here on Irwindale and the House of Drift.
Well, really liked his approach, especially in that second outside zone. He looked very settled, and the flow was pretty good. Snaps into an initiation. You can see he starts moving up the bank just incrementally, but still a bit low on the big bank there, so leaving some points on the table. Off throttle for a second as he transitions. Could have a little bit more angle, but right here he does a much better job on this inside bank. You can see good lock here, nice smoke line, consistent line that pulls him off just right at that second hash mark on that last inside clip, and then he's able to get out to that section of the course pretty easily and fill that very nicely.
Awaiting Trenton Beecham's score in that Roush Performance Next Entire Ford Mustang. As I said, local resident living in Agora Hills. And a 71, so that puts him in the #1 spot. Still quite a few tires to burn here in qualifying, but Trenton Beecham takes that #1 spot, currently with a 71. Next up is to be Adam Knapik. Knapik earlier in practice took it into the wall pretty hard. So we'll see if Knapik makes it to the line, and there he is. So good to see Adam back up on the wall. And again, all the business end is on the front, but you can see a lot of these guys running trunk-mounted radiators, a lot of other critical components, but doesn't seem to mess up Knapik. Here we go. Adam really going for it. Nice job. Sometimes when you hit the wall, you work out the bugs and the kinks, and you got nothing to lose. Flirts with the edge of the track there. You can see that yellow line dropping a tire. But look at that, into that second bank. Really well executed there. See if he can hang on to it. Comes off it just a little bit. About the 3rd hash mark, flirting with that wall again. Adam Knapik very aggressive. He cleaned it up a little bit. I think we have the making of a great run there.
Let's take a look at the replay here, Jared. You can see the Cometic sign in the background is right where that last standing cone is, so the judges want to see the drivers initiated by that point. Again, another driver kind of moving higher, but starting lower on the bank, goes a little bit wide off that line. You can see and hear also some adjustments in the throttle. Does a pretty good job entering that zone, but he comes off a bit early here, and you can see him fighting the vehicle a little bit to try to establish a clean line. He's just outside that inside clip, and that line pushes him out to the outside wall. So a lot of drivers, you know, going to need to make some adjustments on the line to get maximum points there. But overall for Knappich, a good start here, and hoping that he gets a score that'll make it into the top 16.
And Knappich with a 70. That's a 7-0 for Knappich. Puts him into the #2 spot, meaning Beecham just beat him out by that 1 point so far. Great looking car, Dustin Miles. Miles for Styles, Styles for Miles. The Annex Electric Company. Nexen Tire S13 from Cartersville, Georgia. Very J-styled car. The bright Graham lights and the JDM ripping graphics. Dustin Miles ready to have his way with this track. All right, we are clear to send Dustin Miles on his first qualifying run. You can see him there in the cockpit. Visor drops, game face on. Ryan, introducing a new start chicane there, huh? So just putting one wall right up there.
Well, that's always standard here for the past couple of years, so.
All right, so here we go, Dustin Miles. Oh, you see him grip up and really shoot down the bank. That could have got very hairy there.
Oh, no.
Oh, Dustin Miles hard into the wall. Looks like, oh, we got a pretty good fire there on the back end. All right, let's see if we can get. All right, looks like fire and safety is making their way over to Dustin.
Man, they blasted out there.
All right, so Irwindale Event Center, fire and safety. All right, so Dustin's out of the car. Ryan, let's take a look at this again here.
Yeah, you can see he starts off here. He initiates just right at that last standing marker, so he does a good job from that perspective. He's on a mid-high line on the bank, but as you said, he kind of grips up and comes off that zone early. And then right here, he gets on a little bit of a wonky line, and you can see the back end just taps that wall, which absolutely does not move. Then you see the flames start pumping up out of the rear of his vehicle, and they seem to extinguish pretty quickly. But obviously, Jared, as we talked about, how the importance of the line overall, and once you start establishing the momentum and speed, and you're committed to that outside zone #2, if you're on the wrong line, these kind of things can happen. And that wall, over the many 15 years we've been coming here, has claimed many vehicles. I mean, we've seen cars flip upside down. We've seen cars smash head on after inside clip #1. And that is a place that timing is really, really important, and managing your momentum and the line becomes a big, big factor there. So unfortunately for Miles, he's going to get it incomplete, but he'll come back hopefully for run #2 and laid out a solid run. Yeah, we've seen a lot of fire here over the years from different vehicles. Dean Carney, I know that was in kind of in our no pun intended, sizzle reel. We know Forsberg caught on fire. Fuel hits that back tire and then it just starts to combust. So it's definitely a reoccurring thing here at Irwindale, it seems to be like. But like you said, that wall is staring right at you when you transition into that second outer bank. If you haven't downloaded the Formula Drift app, I definitely encourage you to do so. We've been telling you all year, so if you haven't already, you haven't been listening, download the Formula Drift app. Live scoring, alerts and stats, exclusive FD content, breaking news alerts, notifications, access to the live stream, buy some tickets, fan rewards program, games, contests, and special video features. And also win a set of Drift's wheels. Tag a photo of you watching this weekend's event, hashtag FDDRIFZ. Enter to win a free set of Drift's wheels as run by Odi Bakshish in that number 723 Falcon tires, Max Oil, Drift's wheels S14.5. All right, so you can see Dustin Miles outside of the vehicle. We'll get him towed off here in just a little bit. That Annex Electric Company, Nexen Tires, coming to us from Georgia. We'll get him towed off here and continue with the Link Engine Management Pro 2 Championship qualifying.
All right, we are seeing Andrew Haitley there. That is not a good sign with his hood popped, but truth be told, he's got quite a few drivers before he is to hit the track. You can see Raz's Mitsubishi Evo there in the background. Love Andrew Haitley's car. I mean, just the E30 is such an iconic, you know, shape and silhouette, and now you can actually play it in video games, which is pretty cool. So the Haitley Motorsports E30 getting worked on. Let's get refined. But next up, so again, Dustin Miles did receive an incomplete. Next up should be Houman Rahimi. All right, this is Sean Adriano. So next up was to be Houman Rahimi. That Achilles Tires masked Motorsports 350Z, but haven't seen him since Texas. But right now, Sean Adriano works on the ESSA team, and I know his spotter is Michael Essa. He's given some insight, and what a great spotter to have, a former champion in your head telling you what's going on. But Sean has really shown that he's very talented. Very fluid line there from Adriano. The Grady Performance Products. Oh, knocks off that back bumper. A little bit of design craft. Back to work there for you, Gary. Tight to that final front clip and uses all of the course. So outside of the bank, which a lot of eyeballs are on that bank, Ryan, coming into the second portion of the track, seemed to have it figured out.
Yeah, and with 71 as our highest score, we're still not seeing any drivers have a breakout run just yet. And you have to imagine that a lot of it is because of the bank. You can see very down low on the bank here is Adriano. Transition in inside clip one, narrowly avoids going into the wall there, was able to get away with just the bumper coming off. And now circling around to this final inside clip, pushing out wide here. Much better job connecting those two last sections of the course.
Yeah, flirting with that wall again. Skirt. There you go. So a tail light, a bumper, but continues on the course. It could have fared the way of Dustin Miles, unfortunately for him, but looks like he comes out not unscathed, but just a little cosmetic. And I know following him on Instagram, it seems that he's been doing a lot to his body shop guy lately. And very cool paint job. I'm always a sucker for a camo scheme. So Adriano's score, 72. So he tops the heap. Top of the heap here for Adriano. All right, Troy Manners. This is, I've known him as Squirt, the 1JZ Squirt. Coming us from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Squirt, he's physical in stature, but definitely is a very talented driver. We've seen some great things from him over the years at the Club Loose events up at DMCC. And look at this, boom, gets right up close to that wall. That Neo Motorsports S14.5 as Squirt comes into that second outer bank in the zone, looking dialed, Ryan. A 72 is a score to beat with that Sean Adriano, and he tightens it back up at the second hash mark. Uses all the course there. Troy Manners on his first run, making his presence felt, Ryan.
Yeah, that was a tremendous run. Way to kick it off there in his very first. Good initiation, gets right to throttle, big smoke line here, mid-high line, works it up, just banging off the wall for a second, but keeps angled in the vehicle, now transitioning into this inside clip. You can see off the throttle for a second there, and then enters that outside zone, does a great job getting into that outside zone and staying in it. Second hash mark on that inside clip, and just a bit short of that final outside zone, but overall, a really good run by Troy Manners.
Can Troy top the 72? I'd have to assume so. I mean, just really strong on the bank. Done well on the second outer bank. All right, so awaiting Troy Manners' score. Beautiful day out here at Irwindale Event Center. Taking a look at the forecast, and coming in. And yeah, it looks like 84, 80 And 78. And Troy Manners with an 82. So beats that 72 considerably. Still quite a few drivers to go through the course here. And that is, again, Troy Manners. All right, so as Jeff Donati, he likes to party, cause trouble, and he wants to not hurt anybody, but he wants to hurt this track. Jeff Donati, Tuner Tools, Achilles Tire, Nissan S14. Throws it in, works his way low to mid on the bank. Need a lot of car to muscle it up there. Snappy transition. Ended up gripping up quite a bit there, Ryan, on that second outer zone. Seemed to have figured out that front clip no problem, as Donati, man, he was hammered down. He threw a brick on that pedal and just threw it at that wall.
That's one thing that he can take away from this run, is that a lot of drivers have been lifting coming off of outside zone 1 into inside clip 1, and that's really a full throttle area. He did not do that, and I think that's something that he can build off. If he can get the right line and stay high on the bank, he pretty much was full throttle the entirety of the way from the big bank into inside clip 1, and then just getting into that decel zone right before outside zone 2. So he did have a little bit of trouble with the line, a couple areas that he could work on, but certainly a strong benefit for him in the way that he managed his throttle and not lifting in those areas where the judges want to see you be full throttle.
All right, and there it is, a 65 for Jeff Donati. As next up, our only female in both Pro and Pro 2 competition, Kelsey Rawlings, Top 1 Oil, Achilles Tire, Nissan S14, and vying for a different setup, the Ford Performance setup under the hood, or sticking out of the hood. All right, let's see how Kelsey Rawlings from Orlando, Florida fares on this track. Yeah, starts out, guns a-blazing. Saw a little bit of wavering, then boom, just sticks it right to the pavement. Big transition. Could have lost some speed there, but no, she gets right back on that outer zone, Ryan. Kelsey Rawlings might be a contender for that #1 spot, knocking Troy Manners off the heat run. Well executed, regardless of gender. That was a solid run.
Yeah, she took some big risks there, and she pulled them off pretty well. She got a nice initiation there, big angle. You can see she does have that little bit of adjustment, but look how high she is on the bank. Big angle here coming off. She's just off that inside clip, so she'll drop some line points. But you can see as she gets into the second outside zone, she touches the wall, stays on the throttle here, just pulls off for a little bit. And we're not seeing a lot of drivers fill both those zones. Kelsey did a pretty good job of that, and even though she had a couple little flubs there, overall, it was well-executed run. Here she is coming into that second outside zone. You can see just a little tap, but she keeps angling the front wheels, and that's the most important thing in terms of the overall judging evaluation consistently through that section of the course, and I think the judges are going to reward her for that.
Would you agree? It almost looked a little hairy there, like she almost threw too much angle at it, and it almost gripped up. And an 82, so rivals that of Troy Manners, so tied with Troy Manners for that #1 spot. And 82 for Kelsey Rawlings. Look at the points, point allocation there. Looking for some big things from Josh Robinson, Robo-Roo, the Transformer Kangaroo, and the Holden Commodore Ute. The vehicle not available in the States, so it's always cool to see this massive long-bodied vehicle. Josh Robinson. And here we go. Let's see if he can kangaroo punch his way into this big bank. See him keeping it consistent, not sticking to the wall. On that transition, you can see a little shallow there, maybe playing it safe to maintain that momentum into that second outer bank. Big, massive angle there for Josh. You see him. Is that a salvageable angle there? Did he fall out, Ryan?
Well, you could just tell by the movement of the car that he was really slow on that second inside bank, and even though speed is not necessarily it is not a factor, a scored factor, you could tell that it kind of hurt him there. You see he locks up the front brakes. He's on this midline here. As he comes down off, you can see that back end really trying to squeak out from underneath him, and then as he comes into this second outside zone, looks like he almost makes contact with the wall there. This is where he really looks like he's just going physically slow, and then big angle there. He has to pull some out. The judges are going to have to make a determination of whether or not there was angle in the front wheels when he did pull the angle out of the vehicle. Look how sideways he was right there, but not able to maintain it. Looks like he had a little bit of angle in the car, so I think they may give it a scored run, but it's a big mistake, so it's going to be one of the lower end.
Yeah, that really could have ended a complete run and would have been an incomplete run if he straightened out or countered, but judges are analyzing it right now. You see that counter steer. You know, yeah, looks like they're scrutinizing. That's what they are. They're so judgy, these judges.
So judgmental.
Why are you so judgy?
So it looks like they did. Looks like they did think that
title
was too much of a mistake, Jared, and they did give it incomplete.
All right. So unfortunately, for the Aussie Josh Robinson, that will be an incomplete. So all joking aside, they analyzed it, and yeah, they basically an opposite drift. The tires went the opposite direction. Jonathan Hurst, he had a great run in St. Louis, if I can recall. Just some exciting things from him. Let's see if Jonathan Hurst can step it up. This Dynasty G37. Listen to that exhaust now. He is hammered down as well. Similar to that of Donati. Seems like the car's a lot more nimble than some of the other competitors. Worked his way from it. Really like how he executed that second outer zone. Looked very fluid. Jonathan Hurst.
So let's take a look here at his run. You can see just gets initiated right at that last standing marker. Trying to find his way here, get some balance in the vehicle. Goes from mid to high. Good angle coming off. You can see consistent smoke line. Great job on that first inside clip. And then he decels in the exact correct area and is able to fill the second outside zone pretty well. He took a little bit of distance off the wall towards the latter part, but he was able to still draw a line that got him to that final outside zone. And so scores are coming in, and we'll see how things land for Jonathan Hurst.
All right, scores are in. An 82, another driver with an 82. So trends are forming here. So you can see 22, 23, and 37. So points all across the board, and a lot of these guys leaving those line points out on track. This is a vehicle I was, again, so smitten with earlier, and love how this thing has progressed over the years. This has been a real fun passion project. I remember this vehicle being debuted at SEMA quite a few years ago, and it's great to say, you know what? It ain't a trailer queen. This thing's a hot rod. This is a race car. Andy Haley throws it in. See him mid-line, working his way up. Let's watch this transition. Now transitions back. Oh, scrubbed a lot of speed. Ryan, you can hear him transition, and then you can hear the tires barking, saying, no, wrong way. Oh. All right, so Ryan, unfortunately, a couple mistakes there for Mr. Haley.
Yeah, and I think the big one was noticeable right in front of the main grandstand here. You'll see he's on this midline. He's tweaking the front wheels a little bit, trying to get some balance in the vehicle. Now coming through here, he's going to push really wide, and he's going to have to make a big adjustment. He scrubbed some speed there, as you said, Jared. Has to get back on it and kind of restart his program a little bit here. This is not the typical Andy Haley that we see. No. Usually he is very much on point, so you have to wonder. And then right there, you see he basically drives straight across the finish line. So now we're going to the judges for the overall determination, and it looks like he did not finish the run, and so they are going to give that an incomplete. Oh, man, a couple of these guys really struggling. And next to be a driver that was doing double duty, but he is driving in Pro and not Pro 2 this weekend. Ryan Littoral in that Coro Works. He's going to be piloting that 350Z in the Pro Championship. But right now, Crick Felipe from Vallejo, California, the home of E40, and Crick Felipe, team Burn the Most.
He's got, I remember his son was out here early this year. I'm sure he's back in school, but Crick, he's just progressed. In practice earlier, he was hammering down. Talk about burning the most. He was really throwing it down. And look at that. That's what I was talking about. Look at Crick. And this is familiar territory. You know, his home track is an oval as well. Look at Crick, man. He is on fire. Can he top that ATU? Oh, and just as I say that, the announcer's curse comes in a bit shallow, but then works it out. About the second 2.5 hash mark there. But an exciting run there for Crick. Keeps it off the walls, keeps it safe, and just kind of a learning curve here. He's got one more run. Yeah, and you can see why he's in the top 10, fighting for one of those top 8 spots to potentially take that Pro 1 license. Crick Felipe, a tremendous driver here, moves from mid-high, or mid to high on the big bank. Good transition there, and see how he keeps throttle on the vehicle. It's a minimal drop off in that decel area, but unfortunately he didn't get the right line going into outside zone 2. He kind of had to move his way in there towards the finish. He gets that 3rd hash mark on that inside clip, and a better job through that final outside zone there. Here he is on the bank moving up high. You can see he's got good angle in the car, just barely drags that back bumper, and I really like the way that he came off the bank, kept throttle in the car. You can see there's no punctuation in the smoke line there, which is an indication that he's on throttle consistently, and that's what the judges want to see. And Crick with an 80, so a very respectable score, given the high scores are 82. And we have 3 drivers that are tied with 82, that of Troy Manners, Kelsey Rawlings, and Jonathan Hurst. A former MDU champion, actually piloted a truck in the Midwest Drift Union, and now he's been campaigning this 350Z this year. But let's see how Alec Robbins, his Coro Works Achilles Tire Nissan 350Z from Minnesota, Becker, Minnesota. Alec, you can see it flicks it a little more, transitions through. You can hear him running through the gears into that second outer zone, maybe a little timid there, keeps it off the wall. You saw Miles going a little hard earlier, tight to that front clip. Well executed there. I just have to say, on that second outer bank, could maybe push it a little further, but keeps him in the tank for the second run. Let's take a look at Alec here. It's that initiation. Starts to see the smoke line filling up about halfway through. You can see a little bit of adjustment in the front wheels there. Now transitioning into this inside clip. You can still see a little bit of movement in the vehicle. Trying to get settled here. It's about midway to the wall from the outside zone that had been painted. And a much better job there through the finish line on that last outside zone by Alec Robbins. All right, the infamous backdrop here at Irwindale Event Center. The gravel pit over there. Like I said, the forecast to be awesome. 78, a 78 there for Alec Robbins. And this Coro Works Nexen tire, excuse me, Achilles tire, 350Z. All right, next up, Riley Sexsmith, coming us from Canada. He's in this 2JZ Toyota 86, the Enviado Achilles tire, Toyota 86. Leaving the start line, had a bit of bad luck there in Texas, but you know what? Leave it all in Texas. Because right now, Sexsmith, the exhaust note wound up. Again, another sign of just hammering down. Look at that front left, locking it up. He is just muscling this car around the track right now. Again, that front left smoking indicates a lot of left foot brake there. So Sexsmith currently sitting in 7th place. You can see right here why he gets a nice aggressive initiation. He's on that mid-high line pretty consistently. A little bit of movement in the front wheels. Pretty much stays on throttle through that first inside clip. Draws a nice line, but then comes off the wall a little bit there. Has to make an adjustment. Does get that zone filled, but not all the way to the wall. And then a good push there through that final inside clip in that last outside zone by Riley Sexsmith. And there for Sexsmith is an 80, an 8-0 for the bright red beard of Riley Sexsmith. All right, next up, Garrett Denton. CoralWorks, another CoralWorks vehicle. Nexen Tire, S14. Garrett Denton coming to this round, sitting 6th overall from Hope Valley, Rhode Island. Looked good in Texas. Can he throw down here at the infamous House of Drift? And look at that. Good angle, good posture, works it up towards that wall. Whoa, buddy, just works it on in, does not bat an eye. Pulls off the wall a little bit, makes that front clip. Garrett Denton challenging our current leaders in qualifying, Ryan.
Well, Denton was very much a standout driver in Texas, as you said, Jared. He got that 2nd place just following the Reader in the finals. Made a really big splash there, and you can see why. Pretty aggressive move from mid to high on the bank on outside zone 1. Throttles through that first inside clip. Draws a nice line here to that outside zone. Locks in on that angle and stays pretty consistent here. So you're seeing a lot of consistency. He comes off that zone a little bit early, but he's still able to hit that first or that last inside clip and reach out to that final outside zone. So besides coming off that 2nd outside zone a bit early and maybe getting into the big bank a little bit late in terms of how high he was when he ended the bank, that was a tremendous run and should certainly be up there with the top guys.
And Garrett Denton with an 88 for Garrett Denton. Ryan, you talked about his 2nd place finish just behind Reader. Dylan Hughes there in 3rd in Texas. And Garrett Denton, boom, with an 88. He's our new #1 qualifier. But still, we have our top 5 drivers to go. Brody Goebel, Frankenstein Speed and Custom, Achilles Radial S14.75. You can see fixie wheels. Let's see how our BC Vancouver driver can throw down Brody Goebel. Brody Goebel taps the wall, shreds some weight, pushes him down the bank a little bit, but stays pin it to win it. Into that 2nd outer zone, looks like disrupted his line a little bit there. And brings it past that final front clip and through the finish line. Ryan, I mean, Brody Goebel showing all the signs that he can really master this track.
Yeah, and he definitely looks very Pro 1-esque with the aggression overall. You can see big angle here, pays a little bit of a price for it, pulls the angle out of the car, he loses a little bit part of his bumper there, or his the rear trunk, but as he gets into the 2nd outside zone, you can see he's back on throttle here and really laying into it through this last inside clip in that outside zone.
All right, so Brody Goebel, scores are in, and an 85. So even with that damage and off a little bit, Brody Goebel with an 85 for Brody Goebel. Shout out to Luke, former the Dread. Cheers, buddy, watching at home. As Sebastien Gauthier switches it out for the high-vis orange to the high-vis yellow paint job as he is on the start line. All right, so Gauthier. Got that PB Creations on the door. Shout out to PBK. All right, Nexen Tires, Cosmos wheels, and the Retina Burning Yellow. Sebastien Gauthier, another Canadian in the top 5 from Quebec City. Gauthier. Flew it through it, keeps it off the wall. Could be closer, but it's always, ooh, buddy. And not that wall. That wall ends up taking off his bumper. Continues through the course, but Ryan will take a look at that. Looks like he had a major correction kicking him into the other direction.
Yeah, pretty big correction there in that 2nd outside zone. Let's get a look at the initiation here. Starts off pretty good, but you can see he starts to move lower, and he kind of stays on that low line, comes up a little bit there towards the end, and we see a lot of drivers doing this now into this inside clip, and this is where the big angle happens, where he puts a lot of angle in the vehicle, taps the wall, and then pulls out of it pretty extremely. So we'll have to see how the judges take a look at that. It did look like it was enough for an incomplete, given what we've seen so far in qualifying. But we will make it official here as the scores come in.
All right, as dropping some base here on the track, Sebastian Gauthier raises a little bit of stink, but drops an incomplete. Some grain-fed beef there for you, Ryan. 3 more drivers, and those are the top 3 coming into this final round of the Link Engine Management Pro 2 Championship. Saw a pretty cool Instagram earlier, Ryan. I don't know if you saw, but it was Osbo, and he put up a photo of him and his first experience here at Irwindale. He put up throwback to 2009 and prepping Chucky, which is this car, at Essa's shop back in 2009, and he's making his way here, Osbo, for the 10th time ever to Irwindale. But this vehicle has been here numerous times as well, which is kind of cool. So this is the former vehicle of Frederick Osbo, and the keys are now, and the steering wheel is in Ola Jaeger's hands, the Team Japan Auto Next Entire Toyota Supra from Fredrikstad, Norway. Ola Jaeger, a contender. Mathematically, I believe he's totally out, right? 100 plus points, and it's 100 points for the win. But Ola Jaeger wants to fight for that final top 3 spot, and maybe even that 2nd spot. Crazier things have happened. So Ola Jaeger into that 2nd outer zone, making it look very poetic. The Toyota Supra. Ooh, wow, really flirting with disaster on that wall there.
A little bit of jumping there, too.
Yeah, getting torqued out.
I think if I remember correctly, it said 105 points, so mathematically it's possible, but Reeder and Hughes would actually have to not qualify. He would have to get the #1 qualification and win the event.
Right.
That's what have to happen here. So as soon as one of those 2 qualify, then he is mathematically eliminated from the championship. And taking a look at his qualifying run here, you can see, compared to some of the others, a pretty good run overall. But a few things that he could have cleaned up on the big bank coming through that inside turn. There's that big jump right there as well. Haven't seen many drivers go over, no. But very noticeable from his vehicle as we wait for the scores to come in.
It looked cool. 79. A 79 for Ola Jaeger. Guys, judges, can we institute that jump next year? So you go across the finish line, Lantain, Brian, and then you just hit the jump. Yeah, so let's just... Yeah, the jump, oh, bonus points? Okay, I'm with that. It's the multiplier. Little Mario Kart, hit the arrows or something. All right, so our top 2 drivers. Dylan Hughes got 3rd at our previous round of competition. He's currently sitting 2nd in points from North Bend, Washington. The Advanced Auto Parts Next Entire NOS Energy Drink, LS Powered S13, the Dozer, Dylan Hughes. About 3/4 up the bank. Very fluid with the exhaust note as well as the line on that 2nd outer zone. Backs off and then starts to dip in that back end. About the 1 hash mark as he crosses the finish line. Potentially playing it safe here. You know, he's going for the championship. It's a marathon, not a sprint for him.
Well, you have to imagine what the strategy is for Dylan and his team. 40 points away. Do they want to meet Reeder on the left or right-hand side of the bracket, or allow some other driver to potentially try to take Reeder out so that Dylan has enough of an opportunity to make it far enough to get those 40 points back? And the qualifying here is going to be important, but generally negligible given the point spread. Depending on what happens, it will be a factor where these 2 guys come in. As you can see, Dylan coming at #9 position. So it'll all kind of boil down as we get more data coming through and everybody qualifies. But Dylan basically needs to make up 40 points somewhere, either by having Reeder eliminated early on and then him capturing those 40 points. If they did meet in the finals by chance, it would not be enough. There's only a 40-point differential, or a 20-point differential there. So it would have to be happening some point earlier in competition.
All right, Travis Reeder with his signature checkerboard doors. Again, both these guys really good friends, Reeder and Hughes, but now It's for the championship. It came down to the final round last year with Kevin Lawrence stealing away from Reeder. You see him kind of wavering on the bank down to that second outer zone. Steers clear of it again and locking up that front wheel similar to that of Sexsmith. Reeder tightens it up to the final front clip. You have to imagine a lot of nerves, a lot of adrenaline going through the veins of Travis Reeder, Ryan.
Well, Reeder is your current leader, and for good reason. He's been the most consistent throughout the year so far. Starting off his qualifying run with that mid-line, having a little bit of a shake in the front end there. Now through this inside clip, lots of speed here, blazing through that inside section, locking up the front wheels, trying to find that correct line. You can see just not completely settled overall, but able to hit that inside clip, but not get out to that final outside zone. So not the greatest qualifying run that we've seen from Reeder, and a lot of pressure on him here this weekend to perform and hold on to that championship points lead.
And Reeder with a 65 there for Travis Reeder. All right, so okay, so Dylan Hughes with that 78. These, again, two of these drivers challenging for the championship. We'll take a short break, regain our thoughts, but when we come back, the second run for the Link Engine Management Pro 2 qualifying. Get all the media set again. When we come back, we're here at the House of Drift. All right, welcome back. I told you it was going to be a short break. O'Reilly Auto Parts title fight. Ding, ding, presented by Rain-X. This is a title fight because who's going to hold the title? Who's going to hold the heaviest trophy? We'll find out tomorrow night for Pro 2 and Saturday night for the Pro Championship. Ryan, who are you placing your money, who are you placing your bets on?
I don't bet.
Oh, come on. If you're a betting man.
I'll set the scene for you.
Okay.
For Pro 2, I think obviously we know who the challenges are. For Pro, it's going to get really interesting because the point spread is a little bit more. It's 49 points. Osbo has got to hope that James Dean goes out somewhat early, probably in the top 32 or top 16. I'll have to look at the exact math and we'll break it all down for you. But you know, Osbo has had some success here. He's won here. Dean has been the most consistent, but we did see him have some car problems in both St. Louis, and also in Texas. And, you know, will that be a factor here at Irwindale?
And Peter Visick won here last year, so shake things up. Well, right now it's all about Pro 2 qualifying. This is the second run for Brandon Schmidt, and the remaining drivers are all the drivers, including Brandon Schmidt. So you can see our leaderboard, Denton out top with that 88. Brandon Schmidt looking a lot more comfortable here on the second run. He is thrashing through this course as Brandon Schmidt tight to that front clip, punts it out of the way. Ryan, you got to think these guys, all right, cool, got one run in the books. If they didn't have it incomplete, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, and knowing where the cutoff is going to be extremely important. A 67 here for Brandon Schmidt. See if he made some adjustments here. He looks like he did a much better job on the bank this time around. Great angle through that first inside clip, like the approach. And then as he comes into that inside zone, the outside zone rather, on that inside bank, he was not able to fill it completely, but did get to that inside clip and that last outside zone.
And Schmidt with an 83, so a considerable jump. Again, we take the best of the two. It's not combined, so Schmidt jumps up to the number 3 spot. So Brandon Schmidt, nice run there, bud. But we're going through all the remaining drivers from this point on. Razneor, he sits on a 68 on his first run in this Mitsubishi Evo. Let's see what Raz has got. Whips it around that start chicane and into the bank. Raz higher, more consistent there on the bank. Past the clip and into the second outer zone. Keeps it off, but slowly creeping and inching towards it. Lines him up for the second hash mark on the front clip and across the finish line. Looking a lot more fluid here on his second run, Ryan Razneor.
Well, it does look like where he currently is, 68, is the current cutoff. So some padding to that 68 would certainly be helpful. Kind of a slow roll into initiation. Now you can see that smoke line starting to build up here. Mid-high line on the bank as he leaves outside zone number 1, coming into the transition for inside clip 1, moving into this second outside zone. Get back on throttle here, trying to fill it. Does a pretty good job there as he goes early into that zone and then pushes out deep towards the end. And a much better job there filling that last outside zone.
All right, so waiting for the score of Raz. And a 72 for Razneor from Granada Hills. As our next driver gets prepared. So Ryan, we talked about that cutoff. He does better, and you talk about the cushion. We take the better scores of the two. And George Kirakopoulos, Link Engine Management, Nissan 370Z, Modified Performance, Turbo by Garrett, Stance Suspension. He's going for it. George K has a 67 on his first run into the second outer zone. Can hear that thing popping its way through that second outer zone and across the finish line. Ryan, is that enough?
Well, we'll see. He's got that 67, so he's just below the current threshold here. He's got to have at least a 68 for the cutoff, but how things are progressing, you're probably going to want to be 70s, 70 or higher at least. He starts low, moves high on the bank, a little bit of moving around. You can see struggling with the line a little bit here, but as he approaches this second outside zone, does a much better job getting into that zone early, filling it, still comes out of it a bit early here, like he did on his first run, but he is able to hit that inside clip and push out just to the edge of that outside zone. So 67 is what he's sitting on. Let's see if he can better it for run number 2.
All right, so 8 vehicles do have incomplete runs, but right now George K with a 78, so that's a great opportunity. So again, 8 vehicles or 8 drivers have incomplete runs, so that's a, you know, opportunity to shove some more people out if they don't step it up. One of them is up next. That's Patrick Held. So again, George K with a 78. That's a strong showing. Currently puts him into 10th. So, you know, with 8 drivers not having scores, they could push him out and better that, but we'll see. So Patrick Held, EOP Distributing, AEM, Fortune Auto, Nissan 240SX from Snohomish, Washington. Let's see if he can throw a score on the board. Starts mid-low. Eventually finds himself mid-line. Very timid on approach on that second outer zone. And you can see scrubbing some speed here. Not able to stick it all the way to the wall, but fluid past that final front clip run.
So Patrick Held was one of our incompletes. This is his last and final opportunity here. He's got to hope for a 70 or better to stay in the current top 16, though we are seeing that number move higher, Jared. He's pretty low on the bank here, not filling that zone. Coming off the bank with some good angle here, but as you said, approaching the second outside zone, really off the throttle there for a second. Now as he transitions into this second outside zone, he's going to pull off early. We've seen some drivers doing that, not maximizing the line points in those areas. And there he is able to push out wide and hit that last inside clip as well. So the number's about to drop. Will he stay alive? And it looks like he does for the moment.
Just want to make sure that's confirmed. And a 72 for Patrick Held. So he does have that spot, but a lot of drivers. All right, our next driver is calling a comp timeout. That was Rob Carlson. Rob Carlson, if you can recall, on his first run, got into the wall. So he calling us, and with him going to the wall, that's an incomplete run. So it is necessary that he calls the one and only competition timeout for the weekend. So Carlson has 5 minutes allotted to get to the line, ready to go. So we'll advance on to the next driver. In our Fast Orange Pro qualifying, this is Trenton Beecham. Trenton Beecham already has a score of 71, Ryan. That's really flirting with that bubble. That might even be just outside looking in. So our local driver from Agora Hills comes into that second outer zone. Really like the way he's progressing here. Big angle. Would like to see him take that wider line, not so tight, approaching that. And so again, man, I don't know if that's going to be enough, Ryan.
So 71, as you said, Jared, he initiates on throttle here. Pretty high up on the bank, starts off pretty good, comes off a little bit early there. You can see lost some angle on that transition coming into the second outside zone. Gets into it here, back on throttle, big smoke line. Leaves that zone a little bit early, but does manage to hit that inside clip and get out to that final outside zone. So that problem doesn't seem to be, that area of the course doesn't seem to be too problematic for many drivers. But still, many drivers leaving points on the table for those outside zones, but he will get a little bump.
Look at that. I was mistaken. I didn't know if that was going to be enough, but Beecham, a 78. So he moves up considerably. A 78 for Trenton Beecham. So currently puts him at the number 10 spot. So hat tip to the Agora Hills driver, Trenton Beecham. That Roush Performance next entire Ford Mustang. And Adam Knappich. In the Knappich Racing, Keeley's Tire, Nissan S14. All right, let's see what Knappich has. He's from Westminster, California. CrossFit, I know he's into it. Let's see if he can box jump his way. Do some double unders into that outer zone. Well done. You can see him working his way up top. A little wide around that front clip, now into that second outer zone. Knappich. You can see he just form fits right to that wall because that's where he went in harder earlier. Pretty fluid there, Ryan, from Knappich.
Yeah, let's take a look at the replay here and see what happened on this first outside zone. Gets that slow roll initiation, now starting to build up, moves up higher and higher and higher. And you can see goes a little bit long on that outside zone, and that forces him on a line where he misses that first inside clip, but he positions himself back around, gets into the second outside zone, does a pretty good job of filling it here. Just stays right up against the wall and fills it with good throttle through that first inside. That's last inside clip right on that second hash mark, and then out to that outside zone. So he does have that 70. I think he is going to better that. You can see he was really down on the momentum, but just trying to maximize those line points in that section of the course. He's got a good angle there, fills the zone. I think he's going to get an improvement.
And he does, a 79, so a considerable jump up, a 79 for Adam Knapik. Look at that, 21, 23, so a lot of these guys leaving the line. Sean Adriano had a 72 on his first run. Ryan, let's take a look here at this leaderboard. Look at all those folks tied for 4th. You can see a couple tied for 13th. And again, that top 16. So Adriano, he's tied with a 72 for 16th. He wants to jump up. Also noted, Reeder outside looking in. He is currently not in the top 16. Sean Adriano. Transition, man, a lot of stress on these Pro 2 drivers. Man, that thing is popping away. As Adriano just glances that final front clip. Ryan, is that enough? Again, the score is getting better and better.
Yeah, interesting point you brought up about Reeder. That didn't even come to mind here, but we'll go back and talk about that a little bit more. Adriano here on his second run. Right at the threshold here, tiebreakers are broken by the lower of the second runs. And so drivers that are in that position are really going to want to back this up pretty well. But for Adriano, I think he's going to want to get a much higher score because he is on that threshold. He does a better job on the second outside zone here. He's got good angle in the vehicle through that inside clip and then pushes wide here. So he's able to do a pretty good job on the inside bank and bumps his way through the finish line. Let's see if he can better that 72.
Yeah, we talked about, you know, Travis Reeder. He's sitting on a 65. I mean, a lot of attention. 74 for Adriano, so he does better it, but he only sits in the 15th position. So a 74 for Adriano on his second run. We are hearing word that Rob Carlson at Millennium Motorsports S Chassis, he did make his competition timeout. He did make his 5 minutes. We'll go to Troy Manners, who is next in line, and then we'll go back and revisit Rob Carlson. So Troy Manners, aka Squirt, he had an 82 on his first run. He's the first driver to break that 80 barrier, and then it started just rolling on in. You can see Manners currently tied for 4th with Kelsey Rollins and I believe another driver as well. So Troy Manners, Neo Motorsports from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. So still a strong score with an 82, but it would behoove him to back it up with the equally or even stronger or somewhere in that vicinity score to just really solidify that top 5 position. As Troy Manners around that final clip.
Well, he is tied with Kelsey Rowlings at the current moment, so this will be the tiebreaker that he lays down. If those scores do stay the same, either he'll go higher than the 82 or below. You can see decent job on that, on the big bank. Could have been a little bit higher, but good job through that first inside clip. Gets into the second outer zone, is not able to get up to the wall. He has to kind of like move his way up there. So a little bit of lack of commitment there on that section of the course. Hits that inside clip and does get out to that final outside zone. So that section of the course seeming to be much easier for many of the drivers to consistently hit and fill. And let's see how he pulls together his second run in the eyes of the judges here. And it's going to fall just a little bit short.
A 79. So it's not as strong as an 82, but you know, you have to see how the other drivers with 82s back up their 82. So 79 is still a very strong score given given the scenario here. And you know, just throughout the year, you know, we haven't stressed qualifying so much in the Pro Championship because we've had that vicinity of 32 drivers. We've had a lot. We've had bye runs. You know, we've had 30 drivers, 31. So nobody really gets eliminated in qualifying. But Pro 2 has been really stressful. I mean, these guys, 4 rounds, 16 spots. It's a really concentrated season.
Well, you and I were around, obviously, but you can remember going back to the days in pro where there were 60 drivers.
Oh, goodness.
There were a lot of broken hearts those weekends. We don't have those days anymore, and I'm glad we will pretty much never go back to those days.
Right.
But yes, you're right, absolutely. Pro 2 guys, they're fighting in qualifying to make it into the main day. And you know, now that they have live stream on both days, it certainly is helpful to their programs. But you really want to try to make it to that main day, and the guys outside of the top 16 basically just kind of have to pack up and go home or sit around, you know, in the paddock for the weekend, you know, hoping that they made it out on track, and that's why it's very, very challenging and tough.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of drivers internationally that are watching or that are even here from Norway. They want to compete. So here we go. Right now, it's all about Jeff Donati. Jeff Donati. Again, very signature, just hammers down. Nice transition, rolling his way, rolling Cole on that second outer zone. Tight to that front clip. Looked a little more precise there, not just a sideways burnout throughout the course. Looked a lot more, like I said, precise.
And throttle control seemed very aggressive this time around. You can see he's still kind of on that mid line, starts to move up a little bit, just gets to the edge of that first outside zone, transitions here into this inside clip right on that second hash mark. Better job there, but enters the inside bank a bit low and has to make an adjustment. We see a lot of drivers doing this, and I think that's where a lot of points are being left on the table for both line and angle. And as he gets to that final section of the course, he's able to do a pretty good job there fulfilling that, but he had a 65, and he is able to bump up quite a bit and get himself into a safety position.
Yeah, an 80 there for Donati, so a considerable jump up for Jeff Donati. It definitely behooves Sam to consider to pay attention here to Rob Carlson. Rob Carlson from Eden, Utah. Got his car back together after that wall ride, and not the wall ride you're thinking of. And Rob Carlson initiates. See him starting low. Another driver just staying in it. Using that lead foot as far as line ride. A lot of points out there on the track from start to finish. Like I said, you know, stayed on the throttle as far as placement. Definitely going to see some deductions there.
Well, let's take a look here and see how this run 2 comes together. For Rob Carlson as he comes off the bank into that first inside clip. Again, very tight into that second outside zone. Almost entered where the painted line was, so leaving some points on the table there, hoping that he got the best shot possible for taking that competition timeout. And let's see how things fall for him. And he does get a score on the board, Jared, but it is just outside the top 16.
Yeah, unfortunately for Rob Carlson, a 73. He will, as you said, some of these drivers sticking around and taking notes, but Carlson with a 73 on his second run. All right, so Kelsey Rawlings pulls up to the line. Kelsey Rawlings had an 82. Troy Manners had a 79 on his second run. So we take a look at that fast orange pro qualifying leaderboard. Denton still up top of that 88, 85, 83, 82, 82. Kelsey Rawlings currently sitting in 5th. So she's tied for 5th. That's Kelsey. How is she going to back up a strong score? Can she hold on to a top 5 spot? Oh! She was really sliding towards that wall. That got a little sketchy there for me. I can only imagine inside the cockpit. So a good effort there for Kelsey Rawlings, Ryan.
Well, I don't think it's going to beat the 72, but the question will be, is it going to be above or around the 79 of Troy Manners, because that's going to decide the 4th and 5th place positioning at the current moment. You can see she starts off really aggressively, and I love the aggressive driving here. She does push a little bit too hard in certain areas and not able to enter into that second outside zone at the beginning, and so she has to make a big adjustment there. You can see her line was kind of like an upside down V in that section of the course, and she comes up a little bit short there towards the end. So I don't think it's going to better her first run. In my mind and my recollection, the first run was better. It's just a matter of where this second score is going to drop, and will that bump her into 4th or 5th place where we currently stand right now.
All right, let's see what we got here. Kelsey Rawlings, second run from Florida, an 80. So an 80, so she does better Manners 79. So she should alternate positions here with Troy Manners and move up to 4th, and that would mean that Troy Manners would bump down to 5th. All right, so Josh Robinson, this is another driver who had an incomplete run on his first run. He's coming all the way from Australia, from Perth. So let's see if Robinson can throw one down. Winding Road Racing, Nexen Tire, Holden, Commodore, Ute. Would love to see him in top 16. As Robinson initiates. Started mid, worked his way up a little bit. Doesn't throw so much angle at it like that first run. It's where he scrubbed a lot of speed. The Nexen tires go around. Looking a lot more comfortable and confident here on the second run. The Robo-Roo punches back and looks like shreds that back right corner.
Well, I think this might do it. It's got to be a 74 or higher in the current standings to get himself into the top 16. You can see as he's on throttle here on the big bank, he's on a midline pretty much the entire way around, just getting that rear right tire into the last section of that outside zone. Now through the inside clip, a good transition here. You can see the fluidity of the line I thought was really good from inside clip 1 to outside zone 2, though he does come off a bit early there. He's still able to hit that last inside clip and get out to that outside zone, just taking out the course marker there. And it is a 79, so it is going to be enough.
All right, so Josh Robinson, that 79, just shaking things up from 0 to hero. A 79 on his second run. All right, so Denton out front. And right now, Jonathan Hurst, another driver with that 82. So Rawlings, Manners, you can see the shifting there, and sitting just outside is Hurst, who's in 6th position. How is he gonna back up this 82? We saw the 79 or 78, and then bettered by the 80 of Kelsey. Takes a way shallower line there. And just mysteriously wrapped around that front clip as he digs in deep.
So Jonathan Hurst, a pretty good score in run number 1. He's got that 82, so trying to improve that, move his way up. Our top score right now, an 88. Midline goes high. Good angle in the car, consistent throttle. You can see just a brief lift to get himself situated here into that second outside zone. Not fully committing to it, but stays about midline most of the way through. Much better job on that inside clip and perfect job on that last outside zone there. So 82 is his current marker. Does it go north or south here on run number 2 for Jonathan Hurst?
All right, Hurst with an 80, so he backs it up with an 80, similar to that of Kelsey Rawlings. So we do have tie breakers as far as, you know, the 2 scores. So Kelsey and him tie it up, and it defaults to different criteria within the scored runs. Craig Philippi on his second run. All right, so Craig Philippi throwing it down. Well done. Strong on the bank. Crick has an 80 on his first run. Whoa, buddy. Making us really nervous up here in the tower. All right, the Vallejo, California resident kicks that clip out of the way and continues through. So an 80. And what does he back it up with, Ryan? What's your guess?
Well, let's take a look and evaluate a little further here on run number 2. Nice fluid initiation. Pretty good job on the bank there. Consistent throttle coming down off the bank. Just on that third hash mark. Got deep into that second outer zone from the onset, and I think that is a big difference from what we've seen from a lot of the other drivers. Pulls off a little bit early, but still has a good line there, but comes up a bit short on that final outside zone. So Crick Filippi trying to improve here on his 8.080 on run number 1. As the scores are dropping, and it's a big improvement, Jared.
An 88. Crick Filippi jumps up with an 88. Like I said, a very impressive driver. Looks very comfortable on this track. So he takes out Garrett Denton, who has the 88, but Garrett Denton has another opportunity to back up his 88. And if he doesn't better it with an 80, Crick Filippi would take him out. But there's still 12 more points that are available that could better both of those drivers. Alec Robbins, he's going to try to challenge them. The Coro Works Achilles Tire Nissan 350Z from Becker, Minnesota. We are currently into the top 8 right now. So if the season ended right now, these top 8 drivers, including Alec Robbins, would have his pro license for the 2019 Formula Drift Championship. All right, Alec Robbins, he has a 78 on his first run. Into that second outer zone, you can see Alec consistent through, really close to that final front clip. Well executed by Robbins. Ryan, all the Pro 2 drivers really stepping up.
Well, and we saw Crick Filippi just lay down that #1 qualifying run. And what did he do? He had a really good big bank and a tremendous inside bank. And those two things combined have really made the difference. And you can see as we take a look here at this next run, Alec Robbins does something very similar. Pretty good job on the big bank. Bit wide on that first inside clip, but look at the commitment here to the second outside zone. He gets in it early and he stays in it. He's not pulling off. He's right up near the wall, trying to maximize those points around that section of the course, and then he links it together there through the finish line in that outside zone to make it look really good, and he does improve.
And he does all right, so and he does improve. Alec Robbins with an 81. Alec Robbins with an 81 on his second run. He does better it. What is Riley Sexsmith going to do? He has an 80 on his first run. This 2JZ powered Toyota 86, brought to us by Envy Auto. He's really muscling his car around on his first run, and now Sexsmith, you can see him really fighting it in that second outer zone, Ryan. Now brings it across. Looks like it broke up there and powered through the finish line. So an 80 on his first run, Ryan, do you think that'll better it?
I think it might. The one mistake he had was on the inside bank, but that was looking like a very much like a top 5 run to me. He got that nice initiation. He's back on throttle pretty early here. Notices he gets early into that bank and pretty much stays high. He has a little bit of adjustment with the front wheels here. Does a nice job on that first inside clip. Gets into the second outside zone early, commits to it, but right here he pulls some angle out of the car, has to make a little bit of a readjustment. He more or less stays on the line, so a couple little flubs, but I think overall it was a really good run, and I think he will have an improvement depending on how much they hit him on the angle side of things.
There's the Irish flag flying for James Dean. And 79, a 79. So those are two very good, consistent scores there for Sexsmith. As We continue on, and here is Garrett Denton, who was our leader and still could potentially be, but as you can see, he is tied with an 88 with Crick Filippi, but Crick already threw down not only an 88, but he also threw down that 80 on his first run. What is Garrett Denton gonna do? Where in the world is Garrett Denton? Oh, wow, look at Garrett Denton. Quoting Ryan, he says, hello. So, past that front flip and into that second outer zone. Garrett Denton, wow, looking like he could step up to pro right now. Being chased down by that drone. Garrett Denton, wow, does that better Crick's 80, and does he hold on to that lead?
Well, I think that was arguably one of the best runs that we've seen in terms of overall commitment to the big areas that matter on this course. Early into the bank, stays nice and high there. I mean, a lot of pro guys are not doing that all the way through, and he was able to maintain that line consistently in that area of the course. Commits to the second outside zone and stays in it right here all the way through. Pulls off just a bit early, but he still hits this inside clip and finishes up strong there. I think that will continue to keep him in first place. We'll just see how the score comes in here at run number 2.
94, Garrett Denton with a 94, our first Pro 2 driver to beat his way into the 90s, and he comes on strong. Down, get the friction on, as Garrett Denton with an 88 and then backs it up with a 94. All right, Brody Goebel, he is currently third with an 85. All right, Brody Goebel with that 85 on his first run. He's already beat up his back bumper, so why not throw it some more? Massive angle there from Goebel. It ends up gripping up, does not pay off, but it definitely looked cool. So no other drivers with an 85 on their first run. Will that maintain? Will that hold for Goebel? And what is the second run score? Man, these drivers, I'm really impressed. This is just getting me more excited for head-to-head competition tomorrow.
And I think Goebel is definitely a standout in that head-to-head because the car is so fast. He's such an aggressive driver. A couple little mistakes here he's gonna pay a bit of a price for in his qualifying run, but you can see that he's gonna be a real contender in the head-to-head matchups. And currently where he's sitting, he's in a safe spot. He's trying to improve on that 85. Not sure if he's going to do it, but you can see the commitment here into outside zone 2 on the latter part, really making a big difference and showing some separation there between some of the other drivers.
Brody Goebel tabulating the scores. We are in the top 5. Brody Goebel sat 5th coming in. The 85 is paired with an 83. So he actually jumps up to a 3rd with an 85 and an 83, or that's where he was holding on to, excuse me, because the 88's there. So next up, Sebastian Gauthier, surprisingly, had an incomplete run on his first run. Again, this bright yellow S14, the magic color. Oh, wow, and yeah, if Sebastian, great call, Ryan. Ryan just pointed out to me, Sebastian Gauthier, if he gets a score, Dylan Hughes is 17th position. So Sebastian Gauthier holding some potential fate in his hands. If Gauthier gets a score unofficially, that would knock out Dylan Hughes. And Gauthier continues through the course. Is this enough? See, there's that leaderboard, a 78, Adriano with a 74. He is not in. Carlson. Rasnayor Reeder with a 65, but Gauthier, eyeballs on him because our remaining drivers, Ola Yeager, Dylan Hughes, and Travis Reeder do have a score. Reeder's already on the outside looking in, but if Gauthier gets a score, Hughes is knocked out.
He's knocked out at least for the first run, and it's interesting that our number 1 and number 2 guys are currently not in a top 16 position, and so they've got some work to do here. Gauthier, I think, lays down a pretty decent run overall. He's committed to this second outside zone. He's got big angle here, trying to keep it as deep as he can into that zone. Comes off a little bit early, but still draws a nice clean line as he whips it around through the finish line.
84. Look at that. So Gauthier takes fate into his hands and trying to shake things up. So right now, Ula Jaeger has a 79, and looks like he's vaping, first of all. Him being Norwegian, I have to assume it's like fish oil or something, which I've had when I went to Gottville, I had the fish soup with Ove Harlem. Rest in peace, Ove. I know you're watching, buddy. But here we go. So Ula Jaeger, here we go. Yeah, so George K watching in right now. A 79 for Ula Jaeger. This Japan Auto Toyota Supra into that outer zone. And Jaeger, he sits 13th, so he sits comfortably. All right, so Ula Jaeger on his second run. Kind of just looking at this, I mean, because the pressure is really on. And Ryan, if you can remember the last year, Texas was where Pro 2 ended. Remember, Kevin Lawrence, boom, he jumped up from the back of the pack.
Yeah, it got crazy last year, and it's already starting off a bit crazy this year. Number 1 and number 2, currently not in the top 16. The pressure is on. Jaeger with the 79. If he goes above that, he'll knock out George K, who's currently sitting in 16th at a 78. Pretty good overall run for Jaeger. You can see areas where he committed, but he went a little bit long there on that inside clip. And I think he may have an improvement here, and that would bump out George K, who is already done for the day. And it does. He bumps him up to points overall.
Yeah, so 9th overall and 81 on his second run. Dylan Hughes. Dylan Hughes on his second run. This is do or die for the Dozer. Both of our top 2 drivers are not in the top 16. Dylan Hughes just outside, sitting in 17th. He has a 78, but also it seemed that another driver with 78 was that of George K, George Kirakopoulos. So if he does get a score, right, he could, you know, if he gets a score, he'll get into 16th spot. But also, he's flirting with disaster because Reeder. So right now, Dylan Hughes takes a lower line here on the bank. Ryan, do you think he's, I mean, strategy-wise, he needs to step it up here. All right, so Dylan Hughes works his way through that second outer zone. And it looked fluid there from the second half, but I mean, we just saw an amazing run from Garrett Denton just a few runs ago, and that was really low for a potential championship contender.
Well, everything basically rests on a 79 or higher, or Dylan Hughes goes home after a valiant, crazy, awesome season for him. Starts off in a scary way, not getting the bank fully committed there. Now getting into this second outside zone, better here. Does he get himself into and continuing this championship conversation? He needs a 79 or higher to make that happen, and the pressure is on.
Well, again, he's tied with George K. Where's George K's score at? George K has a 78 and a 67. So basically, if he betters a 67, that would put him into 16th spot. So a 75. So a 75 puts him into 15th position, but Travis Reeder has a 65. So basically, you know, again, unofficially, if Travis Reeder needs to get a score, he would bump down Dylan Hughes to get above that, and Dylan would, again, unofficially end at 16th, and Reeder would be in the top 16, pending on where Reeder's at.
This is where Reeder does not want to do the #1 qualification run, right? Because if he does, that means that according to
potentially go against
Hughes in the top 16.
Hughes and Reeder would go against. I mean, it would be sick if he just comes out swinging, because he goes from a 65 and then tries to beat that 94 of Garrett Denton. Can he do it? Looking at his first run, but we were talking about this right before we went to qualifying. That would be amazing if, you know, these 2 contenders, similar to that of, let's call it what it is, James Dean and Frederick Osbo. But right now, Travis Reeder, he needs to get what's the cutoff score here, Ryan?
He probably needs a 79.
All right, so a 79 for Travis Reeder. Is this going to be enough? Because he's sitting on a 65. You know, As opposed to Dylan Hughes, his first score was the better of the two.
Right,
Hughes had a 78 and a 75. Reeder right now needs essentially I think a 78 or 79 to really lock it in.
Yeah, 79 would do it. It would put him in competition. Hughes is safe with that second score. He's just right there at the bubble. And here is Reeder on his second pass.
Ryan, this is massive. I mean, this is a big deal. We have our points leader on the outside looking in, and he could potentially not even fight for his championship, and he would have to let it unfold here at the House of Drift in front of him if he doesn't make a score.
Yeah, well, it all comes down to this here, this final turn, and the scores starting to come in here for Reeder. What is it going to be? Does he get into the top 16 here as Travis Reeder tries to not have his championship hopes go up in flames here before he even does one battle in the top 16.
Wow, this Achilles tire, the red leader, Travis Reeder. The checkered doors go around the clock. The drone was absolutely on him. That was a sick shot there. But like we said, he has a 65 in his first run. Unofficially, he'd need a 79 to really solidify himself going into top 16. Can he fight for the championship? Again, the points difference, Ryan, between Reeder and Hughes, 40 points between the two drivers. Reeder got the win in Texas. Dylan Hughes got third. Garrett Denton got second. He's now, I would say he's going to finish our #1 qualifier. That does not challenge 94. A 71 for Travis Reeder. So a 71 for Travis Reeder in his second run. He is not in top 16. Our points leader coming into this round is not making head-to-head competition. Ryan, 40 points between him and Dylan Hughes. Dylan Hughes barely makes it in top 16, and he sits in 15th spot. Again, unofficially. We'll have to look at everything. I always like to say unofficially just to be safe. But Ryan, huge, we like to use the word, implications.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously means with Reeder not able to contend. What will happen tomorrow, who wins the championship, is really up in the air at this point. Dylan Hughes obviously putting himself in the best possible position. Once he makes it to 32, he will receive those points, and that is 32 points. It'll close the gap, so he's going to need...
Once he makes 16.
Once he makes it to 16, he'll get those points, and if I'm not mistaken, it will close the gap to about 8 points.
Wow.
I'm not 100% about that. I got to look at that, but either way, it's still not decided officially until all the numbers have come in, but Travis Reeder apparently out of competition right now by not getting a qualifying score into the top 16.
Wow, so huge turn of events here for Travis Reeder. He will have to watch from the stands on if he's going to be the 2018 Link Engine Management Pro 2 champion. The fate is held in Dylan Hughes' hands. Ola Yeager was third overall, but again, our #1 qualifier, an amazing run there by Garrett Denton in that CoroWorks Next Entire S14. Ryan, those, we saw the times there for tomorrow. Pro 2 head-to-head. Prior to that, we got Pro qualifying. Ryan, these Pro 2 drivers are really stepping up at this iconic track.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing bit of competition tomorrow. Just looking at it here, we are seeing, an opportunity for Dylan Hughes to win the championship. Take a look at the Formula Drift website. You'll see the points breakdown. But Jared, we've got Pro coming up tomorrow, as well as the championship for Pro 2.
All right, we'll see you online. We'll see you another time. Send it here from the House of Drift. The O'Reilly Auto Parts title fight presented by Rain-X.